Hey, welcome to episode 5 of the Hills Have Nerds. Today, we're coming to you trapped underneath a pile of unpainted miniatures, wet, paint-covered brushes, empty bottles, and debt. I'm one of your...
Lighthouse.
I was so close to doing that perfect, and you had to open your damn mouth.
I have to ruin everything.
I'm Josh.
I'm Aaron.
I ruin everything. Cody.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
I like that Josh didn't introduce you as our guest.
I'm mad now.
He just expects you to introduce yourself.
I was going to introduce him after Cody said hit thing, but Jay's done this before, so he just came right in.
I can't help it when you give me a pregnant pause. I'm going to jump on it.
He's got
Exactly.
I've never jumped on a pregnant anything.
That's a lie.
It is.
Anyway.
Lee's not with us today. He had
Things.
something.
He had a meeting come up.
Yeah, he's doing something.
Yeah.
More important than this. So
I heard he had too much money to be on a podcast.
he's not poor enough to be on a podcast.
Poor man.
That's what he said.
That's what we said last episode.
For context to that joke, see our last episode about cartoons when Lee offended pretty much everyone.
Particularly poor me.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about 3D printing, miniatures, painting those, the upkeep, that a little bit about what kind of games we use them for, where they come from, maybe a little bit of history of tabletop wargaming. It's going to be a very broad episode. We have, again, joining us is Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram. He has a absolutely massive history in 3D printing and miniatures and wargaming, so we're happy to have him with us, and we're going to take advantage of all of his knowledge to bring to you guys. But first, let's get into, as usual, our first topic of every episode. What are we playing? What are we reading? What nerd media are we consuming currently? And Aaron, you want to start us off? What are you into right now?
What am I into right now? Well, I've been on vacation for the last 10 days. Besides that, I've been playing, still playing Tears of the Kingdom. I've been on the last mission for like 2 weeks, and I've just been wandering around, watching. I just watched the new Spider-Verse.
Did you finally watch it?
I did finally watch it.
What'd you think?
I thought it was amazing. A little upset it was a two-parter and I didn't know about it, but
Spoilers.
This is going to come out. We're on like a 3-month delay currently. So this isn't going to come out for another like 3 months. So if you haven't seen it by now, that's too damn bad.
Shame on it's probably out on streaming.
The sequel's ready.
Yeah. But it was fantastic. I did get to see it. That's all I'm gonna say. Only thing I'm gonna say about it. But I loved every bit of it. Picking all the Easter eggs and everything out of it was fantastic.
It was beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. They're actually like multiple different cuts that made it to theatrical release, and they're nothing like majorly different.
It's just different jokes. Like I seen a website did what's the website called? Kotaku.
Oh.
Yeah, Kotaku did a comparison of what all they found online, people talking about the differences, and they compiled the different. It's like 3 or 4 different jokes that they cut out or replaced in certain cuts. And apparently the director was like, I was waiting for people to notice.
It's insane they managed to, like, in this era of marketing and budget and production and how many people are involved in any one of these major comic book movies. It's like in the thousands of people involved in creating any one of these. It is insane that they sat on that secret until multiple weeks after launch.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of the joke I seen where somebody's like, if I ever become an author, I'm going to write a book and it's going to have 10 different endings. I'm going to wait till people discover that and start talking to each other. And whenever they start questioning me, I'm going to be like, oh man, you guys figured it out. Has anybody found that secret 11th ending yet?
Well, some production companies do that. And I think Blizzard's done that with some stuff where they'll release like scripts. I think the Marvel Studios will do it. Well, they'll release scripts to people that are like fake scripts.
Yeah.
And then when they see these spoilers start popping up, they're like, okay, well, I know who came out with that. We know who our leak is. We know what's going on. So That's neat.
Yeah.
Now there was one scene I was reading about that it was one that was changed between two different versions of the film that involved Spider-Man 2099. Miguel O'Hara, that, and I felt like that's fairly significant to not having one.
That was the only thing I didn't.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about more about that later.
Yeah. So we won't spoil anything.
Yeah.
We get a 3-month buffer.
Yeah.
You know, so we're not going to spoil anything now. Maybe next episode we'll talk about some stuff. So you have a month until we spoil it. Go watch the movie.
But that's all I've pretty much.
Cody?
Well, I've been super busy renovating an apartment, so I've not had a whole lot of time. But we've been stuck on Tears of the Kingdom and climbing ranks in Omega Strikers. Yeah, and that was last 2 games before gold was a little miserable, but
You got it. You got
we made it there. I'm almost mid gold. So
you familiar with Omega Strikers, Jay?
No.
It's waifu air hockey.
3v3 anime air hockey.
Yeah, it's MOBA waifu air hockey.
I can't let gotcha get to me. I play fake
It's
Go.
not gotcha.
I
It's not
can't do
gotcha.
another.
It's not gotcha.
It's not gotcha. It's like you're playing League of Legends. I mean, you go through Battle Pass. It's like League of Legends, but you're condensed in like a field,
air
like a
hockey
soccer
table.
field, like an air hockey.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have powers. You're killing people and taking people out, but you're also trying to score goals. And it's 3-on-3, and it's a blast.
Fantastic.
I've been
super
having a
fun.
great time with it.
Yeah. I am a little aggravated about the Juno skin I bought that did not have a special MVP animation, but all the other purchased skins have a special MVP animation. And then you finally got me to do it. I'm like, oh, okay, $10. I play this shit out of this character. I've gotten $10 worth of enjoyment out of this game.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I'm going to spend $10 on it because it's free to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them some money. I want to support them. And I buy a skin for my favorite striker, thinking, oh, it's going to have a little, because you win MVP and your striker does a little animation.
Mm-hmm.
And the base character has an animation it does. But then all these other characters have different skins, and their skins do a different animation. And I thought, oh, well, this one's going to do a different one. Nope, same thing. Same thing the regular one does. And I'm aggravated about it.
I've heard this story before. And the next thing I know, I spent $2,400 on Warframe.
I guess the big thing that got about me so far on it, the big thing that's got about me so far on it is the game's been out for like a month, maybe a little longer than that, and I think they have put out like 6 patches for it, trying to balance and keep everything going.
Yeah, I mean,
They've been very active on it. So.
They have. Yeah. They've been on it.
Well, Jay, you're new here. What are you into? What media are you consuming?
Well, on game wise right now, I've bounced off Tears of the Kingdom because it's too awesome, and I don't have enough time to dedicate to it because I'm too busy doing the things we will be talking about this episode. And so I've fallen down the competitive Pokemon rabbit hole where I'm like trying to balance perfect IVs and EV train and dragons.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's
a deep hole.
It's fun. Like, why on earth did Nintendo say, you know what, this is going to make the RPG for kids, but for competitive Pokemon, you're going to need calculus and a second job.
They figured that. The players figured that out. That was always something that was like underneath, and now with every single iteration of the generations of Pokemon, they've made it a little bit easier. It's like these nerds are going to do it. Might as well let everybody else have a fair advantage.
To the point, Scarlet and Violet's super easy to do.
Oh
again.
yeah, it's I got like 2 boxes full of EV. Now if I take any of them into competitive, I just get stomped by the first Japanese 10-year-old that I come across.
Well, I still have no idea what I'm doing, but I mean,
Yeah.
I still have no idea. We do the terror raids in Scarlet and Violet, and
well, those are just broken. So.
they're like, "Oh, did you EV train that?" I'm like, of course not. I have no idea what I'm doing to EV
First
train
off,
this.
it's not an EV.
Well, it's EV and IV. You gotta do both.
You gotta get your bottle. You gotta get your bottle
DVD,
caps.
TGIF, whatever.
Listen, if you're gonna have a proper dog fight, you gotta take your dog. You gotta fill it full of steroids and candy, and then do something to it with bottle caps. I don't know what you do. You give some guy bottle caps, and he makes your dog better. Anywhere where we're from, something like that.
I refuse to use the bottle caps. I mean, I want to do this by force breeding it 300 times like God intended.
Oh my goodness.
Poor Ditto.
The final generation of your Pokemon are going to look like old European royalty.
This is it.
Paintings.
Is this the episode we could cancel?
Just saying, you inbreed enough.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if we should. I mean, we're hillbillies, right? So I mean, if there's one thing we know about, it's inbreeding. So
Let's dig that stereotype up. Why don't we?
Did the blue people count as shinies?
we have natural shinies.
Sure.
Yeah, we got shinies in Kentucky.
Yeah.
No, they're West Virginia, I think.
Are they?
Yeah, most of them.
It's the same thing. Anyway, if you don't know what the blue people of Kentucky are, go Google it.
Except the
Or don't.
Google it. Do it. Do it.
Anyway.
Josh, what have you been doing? Let's talk about that.
I've been force feeding candies into animals. I've been giving Pokemon steroid dependence and diabetes. Now, I've been playing a lot of Scarlet and Violet. Just there's a few still left I want to shiny hunt. I'm not as avid a shiny hunter as one of our other buddies is, but there's a few. My favorite type is steel, and so I want to get all those. So I've been doing that. I did a little bit of shiny hunting in Legends Arceus, but I like 100% of the Pokedex in that one. Filled it all out. I got several hundred hours in that. I really shouldn't, but I wasn't working at the time, so you got to have a hobby. As far as watching, we watched Spider-Verse. That was great. We've done episodes since Guardians.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we talked about Guardians last episode. I started reading the Red Goblin arc.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So in the comics, for anybody that doesn't know, that's Norman Osborn gets a bit of the Carnage symbiote in him and becomes the Red Goblin, and then later on there's like his kid gets it, or his grandson. I'm not quite there yet, but there's a section where Norman Osborn is the Red Goblin. And I just finished that part, and then now the Red Goblin has his own run.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting into now, and it's really cool.
Yeah. That's a rough time.
No.
It's really cool though.
Yeah, I'm excited to get through it next month. I'll talk a little more about it.
Awesome.
Anybody got anything else to add there to that?
Been the big show I've been watching, and basically my entire social group is Oshinoko. Have you been following any of that news?
I've never heard that name
so,
before. Bless you.
So Oshinoko is like the top chart anime of the season, and it's like an idol show, except for it's like actually Japanese not Hollywood, Japanese celebrity culture is really effed up, so we're going to make this is the absolute darkest view of possible of entertainment. It's like it's got things on streamers and Twitch streamers and like reality shows forcing contestants into suicide attempts, and
I think I've actually heard of this.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the name of the show or
Interesting.
anything.
Episode 1 is like a movie length episode where they do like 3 different plot twists, and then just like it's insane. I can't spoil it, but everybody that's in the anime scene right now is just addicted to this show.
Wow.
That sounds interesting. My kid would probably like that. All right, just to add in something me and Elizabeth have been watching. I know you and Brittany watch it too. I don't know if you watched the most recent season, Aaron. The Great
Oh, yeah, I haven't watched the season.
on Hulu. I cannot recommend that show enough. The writing is amazing. It's a fictionalized account of the rise to power of Catherine the Great in Russia, and it is just absolutely incredible. It's got Elle Fanning and Nicholas Hoult. Everybody knows Nicholas Hoult as young Beast in the X-Men movies.
The old Fox X-Men series.
And he's got the new movie Renfield that just came out, where he's Dracula's servant and Nicolas Cage is Dracula. So yeah, I can't get enough of Nicholas Hoult. He's amazing. But it's that show is incredible. Some of the best writing and and the delivery of the dialogue, I think, is absolutely amazing. So I highly suggest that. Anything else? We ready to get into it?
Yeah, I think we're ready to go.
All right, let's get into the main topic of the day. So everyone should have their show notes that I typed up and sent to them.
What?
Right.
Notes?
I don't believe in
Preparation?
I'm actually impressed.
Organization?
All the phones came out when I said that.
I don't
And
believe in
actually
those.
see them on Aaron's phone. That's incredible. And I don't have them pulled up on mine. This is great podcast listening right here as we all struggle through our
I mean, this is what editing's for. You cut all this stuff out, right?
Yeah,
No.
Travis.
No. Yeah, Travis. Listen, if any of you have listened to the second episode and stayed for this one, Thank you. The second episode, there's a portion in it where I said, we're going to take a break. And I did it real long so Travis could hear that and be like, oh, I'm going to cut that all out.
Did he not?
No! All you hear, and we all had to get up and go pee or whatever, and all you hear is me going, there's a pause, and then I go, and now we're going to take a break. And then it cuts right into Cody talking about something. Then it stops, like obviously there's a cut.
Yeah.
But all I did is cut out the dead air. You left me doing that like I was in slow motion.
Oops.
Way to go, Travis.
Travis, I love you.
You're doing great.
Please don't do that.
Do it again.
Okay. So we're going to talk about our main topic here. And our main topic is minis and how to get them. What are they used for? What do we mean when we're talking about minis? That's something when you get into nerd culture, you go down to your local game store, you may just be absolutely bombarded by Warhammer. You know, that's kind of the quintessential mini game. If you think about minis, it's Warhammer, right?
Depending on where you go.
For the most part.
Yeah.
I know that was my first thing for minis was, I see, you know, when I'm talking about like wargaming.
I mean, that's the first one I ever seen.
Yeah, was war. Because, I mean, how many... And there's other ones on the rise, and Game Workshop is the devil, right? But, you know, when you go in, how many of these... you know, friendly local game stores where you go in and there's just a wall of like Warhammer or Hordes or this other
Hordes
stuff.
and War Machine was a really big one around here.
Unfortunately, less and less.
Yeah.
GW's been interestingly friendly with game stores lately.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they were very strict for a long time. You had to have so many products. You had to sell so many. You had to have a specific space in your store. I know. We worked in one that we tried. We talked about getting one.
There were rules about what you were allowed to price your product as, how you were supposed to advertise it, whether or not you could sell online. No, you can't. It's. I mean, like entering into a business contract with Games Workshop as a friendly local game store, and I used to run Page 3 for a while. Your all's local game store, and it's like a marriage with a really bad prenup.
So like a marriage.
So when we say minis, let's start. You know what? Let's not start there. Let's do this. Jay, introduce yourself. Like, tell us what your background is. Why are you a nerd? What qualifies you to sit here at the round table of nerds?
Are we deleting
It's a rectangle.
Are we deleting that last section
What?
we just talked about?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Carry on.
What? Delete what?
This is a rectangle.
I feel like we're skipping, but go ahead.
No, we're going to let Jay talk about his background, then we're going to go into what minis are and all that stuff.
All right. Well, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram. I've been in the game industry, I think I clocked it at 16 years last month, since I first got my first gig working for Fat Dragon Games, which is a miniature terrain company that used to do papercraft minis, and my job for them was to make the cut files that made those little silhouette and cricket cutters cut the terrain out for you, so you didn't have to get there with a pair of scissors and do it yourself by hand like a heathen. Instead, and since then I've done podcasting. I've worked with Paizo Publishing, Green Publishing. I've hosted Gen Con twice, PaizoCon a few times, and I'm currently the production manager and community manager, as well as marketing director of One Page Rules, the largest distributor of 3D printable minis on the planet. So maybe a little nerd cred?
Nah, you're all right. You're
Just
all
a
right. It'll do. That'll do.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Yeah. So
where are you going from there?
So what we're gonna do is Jay is gonna take the lead. So here's the thing. So like I said, we're gonna talk about minis. We're gonna talk about painting them, uptake, what we do with them, all that stuff. I'm not an expert on it. Cody's not an expert on it. Like
not.
we are babies this. Aaron does it. Aaron, you do it a bit. I mean, we're looking around here.
As far as
you have
expert,
like a giant shelf of paint.
As far as expert, no. But
it looks like
at
you
least
robbed the
dabble in
Games
it.
Workshop, broke the glass out, and hauled the shelving with
have
you.
a
Of
shelf.
course not. I would never.
But you stuck it with apple barrel paint. What gives, my dude?
Listen, that was when I first started. I haven't used that apple barrel paint in forever.
But that's good and still.
Oh, it's probably. So you can tell some of them have the wrapping still on them.
This one's still got some wrapping on it.
It's coagulated. There's life forming in there.
Yeah.
What color is that?
Purple.
Cody's holding a. That's a different purple. What's that?
Petunia purple.
Petunia purple.
I was gonna say lavender, but
That was when I first started. That's when I first got my printer.
Mm-hmm.
My PLA printer, and I was doing terrain.
Right.
I wasn't doing miniatures. I was painting terrain.
No, you're gonna have yourself shut up. We're doing.
And there's nothing wrong with using the cheap craft paint to paint your miniatures on.
I was
Can't
making
tell Jay
things
to
out
shut
of.
up. He's a gayest.
I mean, absolutely, I'm the gayest person here.
I said gayest.
I think I'm the only one with a rainbow flag in my pocket.
He's got you there.
We gotta stop banging on the token.
Oh yeah, the Armada picks up all that.
Fix all that. Oh my god. I said I can't tell Jay to shut up. He's a gayest.
That's all, folks.
Anyway, yeah, all right. Anyway, Travis, I don't know. Do something there. Maybe not. Leave it. Who gives it? All right, minis.
Perfect.
Let's start this episode. It took us 5 episodes to go completely off the rails at one point. So let's talk about minis. What are minis?
They're dolls.
Okay.
No, they're toys. They're all of these things, really. I mean, don't take it too seriously. They are little tiny figures that represent the characters and creatures in the various games you are playing. I mean, they go the history of them goes all the way back to Napoleon's court, where they used these to simulate battles for actual important training of officers, so that you didn't have to spend real lives to teach these people that flank's good and charging headlong bad.
apparently somebody should tell the Brits that earlier.
But at the end of the day, I mean, like, you know, it's an excuse for us nerds to keep buying action figures, but we're paying for very tiny ones, but we aren't paying any less for them. They cost a fortune. They can cost a fortune. They don't have to.
Especially Warhammer.
Yeah. Traditionally, there's two main audiences that there's technically 3 audiences that care about minis, but the 2 main groups that are spending all their cash on minis are your role players who use the miniatures in games like Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Call of Cthulhu. Primarily, the D&D crowd is the crowd that buys the most minis, and coincidentally, if you've ever walked into a game store and see the Nolzers line from WizKids covering 3 walls, that is why they buy a lot of them.
Those sell pre-painted some too, don't they?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, see, those are the ones I get. If it's pre-painted, I'm okay with picking as long as it's on clearance.
The other major crowd that gets into minis are the wargamers, and that's like, you know, you were talking about Warhammer is definitely the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room. Warhammer 40k is absolutely hands down the most popular wargame on the planet, except for not really. The most popular wargame on the planet is still Napoleonics and historicals. Yeah.
Okay. So the historical bit. Now that's the stuff when we talked about going back to our second episode, which is going to go live in a few days after this one. We're 3 months behind. So our
Good to have a backlog.
Yeah, we're recording this episode, and then our second episode is going to go live in
2 days.
Yeah, 2 or 3 days. I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm the one that's going to put it up, and I just said 3 days. It might be 3 days now.
Josh says the 28th, and then now he's like, I don't know, whatever.
It is the 26th of June.
See, he said until you all said a specific date, 3 days from now is whenever he actually releases it.
Yeah, see, there you go. That's what I said.
Anyway.
So going back to our second episode, we talked about the history of TSR.
Oh, yeah.
Tactical Studies Rules, and that was the beginning of, that was Gary Gygax's company for the beginning of D&D, and those guys all started playing those, war sim games, those historical battle sim games. And so that's minis. That is wargaming. Mm-hmm. You have these platoons of little miniatures you put together, and they have stat blocks, and you get around and run them through.
Yeah.
So I have on here war games versus board games. Okay. Just real quick, because I know you can use it. A lot of times we'll pick up a board game, and a lot of the higher price point board games now will come with really incredible miniatures.
Absolutely. Made with really crappy materials.
Yeah, well,
probably. I can't afford those board games, so I don't know.
Like it's kind of a joke in the mini hobby community. Is like you spend like $200, $250, and you grab your copy of Gloomhaven or what have you, and like you're going to get these like amazing hundreds of minis inside this box, and they're going to be made out of the same rubber a children's toy is made out of, and it's really hard to like trim those, and they don't hold detail very well.
Well, a lot of the Gloomhaven didn't even do minis; it was cardboard cutouts you put in stands.
You had to get us.
Yeah, you have to buy the minis separately for Gloomhaven.
I'm a little aggravated at Fantasy Flight for their new Marvel Dagger board game that's coming out. $90 price point.
Okay.
Not a single plastic miniature in it. It's all cardboard at a $90 price point.
And they already have miniatures for Crisis Protocol. Crisis Protocol, that was it. Crisis Core Final Fantasy. But Crisis Protocol, so.
Yeah, it's that's frustrating.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about Fantasy Flight.
Yeah. No.
We're talking about war games versus board games.
I mean, we could be, because Fantasy Flight makes a war game.
They do.
Yeah, they make a few.
They do a few. Because they do Crisis Protocol we were talking about. It's kind of that. I mean, it's miniature battle movement.
It's a war
That's
game.
There's the Star Wars games.
Yeah.
Legion and the new Shatterpoint.
Do they do the Lord of the Rings one?
I don't think they do.
They do the
Lord
LCG.
No. Lord of the Rings
Yeah,
is made by Games Workshop, of all people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a Game of Thrones one.
Yeah.
There's one for Game of Thrones. I think there's a Power Rangers.
It's
is that
technically
Heroes of the
more of a
Grid,
board
or-
game.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
So,
But you were saying the quality drops.
well, yeah, quality on miniature. It's kind of a joke that these board games come with like amazing sculpts. Like the Dark Souls board game comes with like really amazing miniatures, really good sculpts, but the plastic is like really hard to work with and doesn't hold details, and it's kind of harder to paint. So like, there's like when you see like people that are like really involved in the miniature painting hobby, and I understand that in the wargame room there's sub hobbies and sub hobbies and sub hobbies. Like the people that are really into the miniature painting. Like
We're getting real nerdy today, everybody.
Yeah, they groan when they have board game minis because it's like, oh boy, I get to paint toilet paper. Lovely.
I like my board game.
I do too. I do too.
I mean, that's the only minis I own is board games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
But now, some of the board games that I've seen, like pre-painted minis, are usually the worst.
Yeah.
For board games.
That's one thing I do encourage people to, if you're thinking about getting into the miniature painting hobby, skill isn't like a thing you should worry about, because people will buy hero clicks by the dozen. They don't even put the eyes on the right side of the head.
They're usually cross-eyed. Sometimes they don't have eyes.
Everybody looks like halibut. Eyes on one side.
You just gotta keep in mind, it has to look kind of like the character from 3 feet away, and you're looking at something that has a base the size of a nickel.
Yeah. That's what I was talking earlier about, the Warhammer comics, and that was actually one of them. They had this Marine have this big serious monologue, and you seen the back of his head, and then he turned around and he had these like really big splotchy eyes, and and then just the next panel was just a guy holding him. He was like, "I'm terrible at eyes."
Eyes are the worst.
I kind of wanted to get into like painting the Bloodborne game came with minis, and I kind of wanted to paint those because I thought they would go well with the Steinhardts that's coming out soon.
My Unfathomable, I bought Unfathomable, another Fantasy Flight game, which is a reasonable price point for what you get with it. It's kind of a redo of, I don't know, did you ever play the old Battlestar Galactica?
Yes, love that game.
It's that. Because I guess they lost the Battlestar Galactica licensing, and so they've released Unfathomable under their, it's Cthulhu theme, but it's Battlestar Galactica. There's a betrayer. You have someone's a damn dirty Cylon, but instead of a damn dirty Cylon, they're a damn dirty deep one. And so that's...
And then sometimes they shoot everybody on the ship, and they're not a deep one.
Yeah.
I mean, paranoia is kind of the key to those games.
That's the
Thanks,
best part.
Brittany.
That's the best games. I got that one, and when we painted that one, I was really happy. And you actually taught me some stuff about that. But so when we're talking about quality for minis, so I think we've kind of touched on what a miniature is.
Yeah.
When we're talking about quality, you feel that if you're trying to get into wargaming and you're trying to collect some miniatures and you just want to buy, and we'll get into alternatives to that in a second. But if you just want to buy, you encourage people don't go for like, oh, here's a board game that comes with some cool minis that I want to use in my war game and I want to try to repurpose those for that. You would encourage people to go for the minis that are primarily for war game because you're going to get a higher quality mini.
I mean, you'll get a higher quality mini with some of these companies. My actual advice for anybody wanting to get into it is paint the minis that look cool to you, because that's ultimately what matters. Yeah. Like I'll talk about like there are things that are like objectively better quality and worse quality, and things that are better or worse. But it's just like painting with the apple barrel paints. It doesn't really matter if you're enjoying the hobby. and elitist BS be damned.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
seriously.
I like that a lot.
Facts.
I think anybody who listens to our show and continues on with us will ultimately find that is where we're going to land with everything. What's fun? What is fun for you? What is within your price range? What's not making you sleep in a dumpster tonight to finance?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a game. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah. Like what's fun, what looks cool, that's what you go for. But if you are super interested in quality over, substance, I guess, then
there's other materials that things can be, and it's not like there's this holy grail super material. It's just that the rubbery PVC that board games use, because it's easy to mass manufacture and a little bit cheaper, is just notorious for being a little bit hard to work with when you're painting it.
They're also more sturdy.
Right.
So you can pack them around. For board games, you pack them around, you put them on a shelf.
Oh, yeah.
Unlike,
You don't need the.
Let's grab your Nagash outside here and just like shake it around.
Please no. He's held up by just like streams of ghosts in the air, and you shake him, he's like.
There are advantages to being made out of rubber that you can run over with a Ford F-150.
So let's talk about price point real quick, and then I want to get into that kind of breakable quality within price point. So I want to touch on that. But so price point for entry. So I want to go. My son wants to play Warhammer.
Oh boy!
All right, I'm going to go buy a starter set which has 2 armies in it. Okay. What am I getting?
You're probably paying about
how much am I paying?
I mean, have you had a college fund? Okay, so. Wargaming has a reputation for being an extremely expensive hobby. It doesn't have, I wanted to put this up front, it doesn't have to be an expensive hobby, but if you intend to play one of the main Warhammer army scale games, such Warhammer 40k, or Warhammer Age of Sigmar, or Middle-earth Battle Game, then you're going to buy official branded miniatures, you're looking at about, to get into tournament scale armies so that you can actually show up to an event near you and play with people playing the event,
which is 2,000 points.
2,000 points.
So you measure your armies by points. Each little unit is worth so many points, and then you have little battalions of units that are worth so many points.
And a 2,000 point army is somewhere between 60 and 100 figures, and some more if you play one of the crazy armies that just like swarms of little dudes.
Unless you have Nagash, who takes half your points.
Right.
So
you're looking at on average a $600 investment in that army.
Yeah.
My son wishes I loved him that much.
No, like you don't have to. Like that's literally the worst case scenario, and we like pointing at it, and lampooning it because of how ridiculous that like the GW pricing structure can be, where they take like literally a model the size of just a standard medium human, a 1-inch base. That you can get 2 for $5 out of a Nolzer pack, and they go $50. And then with a straight face.
I asked that knowing how much these things cost. So looking at because we were genuinely looking into the starter sets for Age of Sigmar, because I really like the Stormcast Eternals. Anything Paladin, big armor, Holy Warriors. I like that stuff.
Right.
Love it. I'm a sucker for it. But there was a starter set that had an army of Stormcast Eternals and an army of the Undead, or whatever the Undead are called in Warhammer, and it was 2 starter armies for that, and it was like I want to say like $160, $170, something like that for a price.
That's a great deal to get into Warhammer.
That's actually really good.
You get about half an army of Stormcast for that. If you want to play Stormcast, that's a cheap army. You can get a Dominion box right now for like £100 on eBay or 100 USD on eBay. And you get about 1,200 points worth of Sigmar if you want to play them.
I got a discount on I was pointing at the Reno Shades here, and I split that with someone else.
Yeah, I remember you talking.
Yeah, I play Night Haunts. I love painting Night Haunts. That's the only reason I play Night Haunts. And I say that, but I've never actually played Night Haunts because the guy who got me into Warhammer moved away like a jerk.
So that's another thing I want to mention real quick, and I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
When you buy these, they do not come put together.
No.
They do not come painted.
No.
You are paying if you want a starter set of 2 armies, you are paying upwards of $200 if you're going Games Workshop. And I don't want to sit here and like continue to paint Games Workshop as evil, because I have some fun stuff from Games Workshop. They make awesome lore, awesome stuff. We're fans of all of these. That's why we do this. But they are king of the castle right now for the most part. That is recognizable. So we're gonna punch up. Right.
I'm 100% the double standard of how dare they make me pay for this.
As Aaron has a Games Workshop shelf in his room. So yeah, again, when you buy these things and you buy them from these top tier company, when you're buying them off the shelf at your game store, rarely, if they are meant for the wargaming hobby, and this is my limited experience, Shane, you can correct me, or Aaron, you correct me, rarely do they come pre-assembled or pre-painted or based or any of that.
Oh, yeah. That's part of the hobby. That's kind of that's part of the sale. They are like, this is a model kit. You're going to get your clippers out and you're going to get your sprue. If any of you all have put together a model car or a model truck, if you're a Zoomer listening to here, that's a thing we used to do.
I put together my fair share of model cars.
Yeah. I see that with my dad all the time. We have a big old plane.
Yeah. If you've built a Gundam, it's a similar
experience. If you build a Gundam, Travis builds Gundams.
You don't have to paint Gundams. You can, and they look awesome when you do. You don't have to paint Gundams.
Yeah, so when you get custom paints, they look nice.
Yeah. So you're clipping them off sprues, and you're plastic gluing all the pieces together, and then you're gluing them. The sprue is the frame that holds the parts of the model that you then use clippers to cut the pieces that will eventually become the model together. Okay. That plastic frame is called a sprue.
I sort of say
there's one up there.
There's one up there, but
I know what a sprue is. I'm just I'm doing it for education's sake. I know what a sprue is, obviously, but tell me.
Clearly.
Obviously, I know, but tell the ignorant masses. Listen.
Well, I was just going to say I'm surprised that I don't have more than one laying around here.
More sprue.
I mean, you've mostly switched over to 3D printing, right? Sprues don't exist in 3D printing.
That's true.
What's 3D printing? That's something we'll use later. We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
I use it now.
Yeah. And that isn't, like, a lot of the more modern games are actually moving away from the sprues. Like, you mentioned the Game of Thrones miniature battle game. Really great game. Fantastic game. And those models come pre-assembled in the box. You just pull them out. You still, if you want to paint them, you still have to paint them. They were very smart, and I wish more companies would do this. And all the armories have a unique color the plastic is made out of. So if you wanted to just buy that game and play it and see if you like playing these games to begin with, you can do that the same day you buy the box.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which, revolutionary theory, buy a box and play that game the same day, not 3 months later.
when you get around to it.
The Star Wars miniatures are pretty simple as well, as far as I know, for that war game.
Yeah.
They're just like they kind of look like the old Star Wars war game that they used to make. It's just like that.
But this was a lot of talking about like cost and both time and more importantly money getting involved. And if you're going to go for the behemoth, if you're going to go like I'm going to show up at Games Workshop night at my local store where they play 2,000 point Warhammer, that is the worst case entry. But like, good Lord, please don't do that as your first foray into wargaming if you can help it. There's all sorts of independent war games out there that are still very popular. We just rattled off a whole bunch of games that are not independent games that are also still popular and much easier to get into.
Independent war games?
Yes.
Why? What's a popular one you could tell us about right now?
Oh, I'm glad you gave me the chance to talk about Osprey publishing Stargrave.
I didn't even catch what you said for a second. I was like, okay, he's going to go into one-page rules. And then it's...
and again, to put my bias on the table, I'm one of the executives of One Page Rules. We make a free independent war game that you can go download right now and play. Speaking of cost, completely zero. We even have paper minis you can print off and cut off if you don't want to paint anything or anything like that.
We will have.
But wait, Jay, what if I wanted to use my Warhammer miniatures for that game?
Wow, it's a completely miniature agnostics tools. We're not going to do. I'd almost say the Games Workshop won't have anything. No, they won't. But like the games are designed to be played with any minis you bring aboard, and if you happen to play any given Warhammer army, I'm sure you'll find a matching army in our rule set that will do a pretty good job of playing our game.
So could I use Nintendo's Amiibos.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things we just launched for our game this last week is called Army Forge Studio, which is the ability for you, if one of our 57 factions isn't good enough for what you want to play, you can actually just go in and make your own faction or add custom units to one of our factions, and then you just tell it what kind of powers you want the model to have based off of what they're supposed to be represent, and it tells you how many points they'll cost to play it in the game.
So I put me in the game, and I'm invincible.
So real quick, so one-page rules, and I have a ton of questions about one-page rules, and I want to get into that, but what I want to do first is continue on our kind of general, broad mini conversation, and then at the end, just hammer into one. I want you to tell us all about one page. I have a very important question. But so Jay's here for one page rules. That is an alternative to Wargaming. They're getting pretty big. They're awesome. Everything we've seen from them are incredible, and I'm excited to try some of that out at some point. I really want to. But like Jay said, rules or mini agnostic. You don't have to have a mini that looks exactly like this thing to be
miniature agnostic. We encourage you to bring whatever models you want, and you'll find that in the independent space, we're one of many independent war games out there, and most games that aren't Games Workshop or licensed from a Disney property are usually pretty chill about what miniatures you actually bring to play the game.
So I have miniatures at home and I want to use those miniatures, but I'd like to have something that looks more like the army that I'm imagining I'm using. And I can't find a way to buy that, or that price point for something that looks similar is intimidating. What's an alternative for me to get some minis that I could do? I don't know, just throwing it out there at home, maybe.
Yes.
Clay sculpting.
There we go. That's what we were looking for. Clay sculpting. So
I gotta dig through this. You've laid it on so thick.
If you want to spend even more than buying GW plastic, you could build it out of Lego.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And none of these are what I was talking about. Was I not? I'm talking about 3D printing.
Right.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
Well,
I'm just insane.
I thought this was a softball.
And now imagining this amazing Lego army.
Lego and clay army.
Lego and clay army battling together.
I just imagine Cody out in the creek, like shuffling through the mud. Again, he's got
collecting the clay himself.
Like one of them spin wheels from Ghost. He's just Patrick Swayze in it all night. Making his little clay men.
You know what? I'm more impressed if he makes miniatures on the spin wheel.
Isn't that how you do clay?
They make pottery.
That's your pots. You got little teacups. Those are you're the teacup army.
I mean, one of our community actually statted up the rules if you wanted to use the chess pieces as a faction of living chess pieces.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
it's one of the ones I was really impressed with. But like there's the obviously you're talking about 3D printing, which is just absolutely bodied the industry since it has come out. 3D printing's been around forever, and it's been, if you wanted plastic bumpy copies of things, it was an option for you. The very few people were satisfied with those. It's great for terrain, and some really, really inventive people have been able to dial in those old filament printers to make actually passable and decent and sometimes impressive quality miniatures. But when resin printing started to come onto the scene, which is using liquid resin that you pour into a machine and then it flashes it with UV light like mad science and magic, and then pulls from the goop, reverse Terminator style, the model you want.
Does it really do that?
Yes. Yeah. It prints it upside down. It pulls it out of the liquid. And then what it does is each layer, the UV light shines in the pattern and
it just hardens it.
Hardens it out layer by layer. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's awesome to actually watch them do it. It's fun. Then at home for affordable prices, you can basically have your own little miniature making factory to produce minis like every bit as good as anything you can go buy in a store. And here's a secret: the big companies have been 3D printing the prototypes for the models they sell you for years now. So yeah, so they are the same quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you are sincerely interested in the hobby, I would say, and this is coming from a person who is interested in the hobby and doesn't have nearly as much invest as you guys, I would suggest starting off, going out, maybe get some kind of little cheaper starter set, find something secondhand, see if you're going to like it, watch some people play, and then if you really get into it, then I think 3D printing is the way to go. Just the bit that I know about it and what you guys have told me and what I've seen, like if you're trying to create those giant armies, you're going to spend pennies on the dollar trying to recreate the same thing at home from a 3D printer as you would buy from one of the large name brands. Now, if you want to support the stores, support the stores. If you have the money to buy it, and I will always say this, if you have the money and it's not going to make you go broke, and you want to support Games Workshop or Fantasy Flight or whoever, support them, because they make a lot of content that we love, right? And that's what we want. But if you're looking to get into this and you don't have it, don't think you're priced out of it just because you can't go spend $200 on a starter set for something. There are alternatives for people that are interested.
Like a starter printer right now that will make fantastic quality miniatures very fast, like an entire group, an entire squad of miniatures for one of these games can be printed in like 4 hours on one of these machines. It doesn't even take long. Will run you about $100. And then the resin is $40 a bottle on average for the good stuff. Yeah. And that will print you about 100 miniatures out of one bottle.
So you're looking at what? If you buy a cheap kind of starter printer and you want a bottle of resin, you can get 100 miniatures for $140. And then you still have your intro is 140 and you're printing off pretty much just as many miniatures as you would get, if not more, than you would get from one of these big starter sets from the big high price point things. And then your initial 100 for the printers already paid. Your next is just $40 bottle of resin. There's another 100 miniatures.
It's like if you're doing war games, that first army you print, you paid about as much as if you went and bought from a sane company that prices things rationally. But then the second bottle and beyond that, like it's literally like 7 cents a model at some points for some of them. It's insane how cheap they can get. So like the money savings is a big reason that people are attracted to 3D printing. Also, like I think more important to that is like the selection, because most of the major sculptors that have made the minis you love have now switched to making those models available online as downloadable. So there are you go to your local game store, you're going to find a few options for different characters, and if it's the official model for your game, you're going to find exactly that one. That if you're going to be buying it for one of the games, and I'm trying not to bully Games Workshop here specifically. They make great stuff.
We've bullied the shit out of Games Workshop today.
Well, they're expensive. That's the bottom line.
I'm going to tell my experience with Games Workshop. I bought, pandemic started, and I was down. I was literally living at the hospital, and one of my respiratory techs had a Warhammer book. Okay. And I always heard of Warhammer. I always looked at it, thought it was cool. At Buddy's place, we saw people playing at page 3, saw people playing it, whatever. And I thought, you know what? We're in the pandemic. We're home all the time, where I'm sitting up here. I talked to him about it. Like, I'm going to get into it. I'm going to go buy something. And I'm going to try to paint. I'd never painted before. I mean, I'd done models and stuff with my dad when I was a kid. I'd never done this. So I'm going to go buy I'm going to get something. I like these Stormcast Eternals, these Paladin guys. That looks cool. I'm going to go buy something and get into it. So I go down, and we're in pandemic dark time, so I'm back 4 tables away from the guy at the game shop, and he's got the store blocked off, and I'm like, hey, I want to get into this. What I was thinking is I'd get one of the bigger models, put it together, because I like the model. I like the model assembling. And then I'd try to paint, see if I enjoyed it, and go from there.
Awesome.
Well, for a singular, 6-7 inch model, it was like $90 for like the cheaper ones. And I was like, well, we're not going to do that. Let's drop down. He said, well, we got an army of 3. It's these 3 Stormcast generals, I guess. And I was like, okay, how much is that? $35. And I'm like,
affordable. That's a great deal.
It was like $35 for these Stormcast generals, and I'm like, okay, well, I get them. And I get them home, and they're like They're like 2 inches tall.
Yeah.
Right.
And I got to clip them, and I got to put them together, and then I got to sit and paint. And every now and then painting's fun. Most of the time it's excruciating. No one enjoys it.
No. Painting should be a relaxing time where you get your zen on.
No point ever. Cody, have you ever painted
Nope.
a mini?
Not a mini, no.
You need to, because I want to know what you take out from it, because that's what everybody says. But Pat, everybody listening will remember Pat, our dear GM from episode 2. He agrees with me. It's excruciating and awful.
I love painting.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago I painted 100 minis in one night.
Yeah. I'm not that bad.
That's psychosis.
I paint for fun. I don't worry
It's also your
about
job.
what it looks like.
Yes, I was getting paid.
That helps.
I find it relaxing, and that's what I do to just chill. If I'm sitting around sometimes, I'll just grab some paint and I'll just paint. The thing is, I know you and our friend Grant and Jay used to come out all the time to paint before Grant moved and our paint, and Jay got busy and our paint group died.
It needs to be resurrected.
We used to paint all the time, and Grant would stare at a miniature for 30 minutes going, what do I want to paint this? What color I want to paint this? I don't know. And then he would mix paints up, and then he'd be like, no, that's not the color I want to paint that. What color I want to paint? I'm like, Grant, just slap something on it.
I hope Grant listens.
I hope so. And I've told this rant to him too. But I'm just like, slap it on it. It's paint. Worst you're going to do, paint over it.
Right. It gets real bad, you strip it off with some Windex and a prayer.
There
You
we go.
get into paints, and then there's the washes, and then the coats. And we're not going to get into all this. Again, we're broad topicing. Our main focus is minis and the stuff and one-page rules and 3D printing, all that crap. But it was $35 for 3 little. I put all 3 of them together. Together. I've painted one because I enjoyed putting together. I enjoy the model building.
Mm-hmm.
I've painted one, and the other it's not happening for the other 2. They're so little.
See, I have a problem with painting, and you never painted a mini, but like painting the apartment we've been renovating.
Those 2 different things.
Right, but just painting in general, I can walk by it and I just make a mess of it. Like I have it on the back of my head and on my knees and like on my eyelids. Like I have no idea how I even done
You're
this.
not going to do as bad as what
My
Grant.
hands are covered in paint.
I was gonna say, if you're painting miniatures and you don't have paint on you somewhere, you're not doing it right.
I'm using a roller at the house. I shouldn't even have paint anywhere near me, and I've got it on my back.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
What's that old Pete and Pete episode when he finds the guy that was like the guy that was grading the underwear? Anybody remember what Pete and Pete was
I know
from
Pete and
Nickelodeon?
Pete, yeah.
And young Pete found the dude that was grading the underwear, Inspector 65 or something, and tracked him down for some reason. And then they're at this barbecue thing, and he's all meticulous and perfect, and they serve him barbecue wings, and he eats them with a fork, and he's nice. He doesn't get anything on him. And he's like, there, that's how you do it. And then Pete's like, no, you're finally wrong. You were imperfect. You're supposed to get messy at a barbecue. That's what I imagine when you're talking about paint.
I do agree with the younger Pete there. You should get messy at a barbecue.
I mean, you should look at the receiving end of a Jackson Pollock painting after you're done painting miniatures. Really.
That's suggested.
Well, I kind of want to try it because I do want to paint the Bloodborne minis.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I mean,
Come to the dark side.
Look at all, right around here, he'll go get one. You can paint while we talk.
Yeah.
But
That's a little
anyway.
bit of a drive.
But I'm with Aaron here. Like, well, I long before I started working, I was just doing the painting for fun and like just kick back, put on my favorite show or podcast, grab some minis, put some paint on them, just relax and chill.
Yeah.
And like 5 minutes here, 4 minutes there, 2,000 points of vampires later.
So, I mean, I know there are places, if I wanted to compete in a, tournament Warhammer play, which they have there, right?
Yeah.
There's a tournament Warhammer
Absolutely.
play, or tournament whatever play. They require you to have these things painted,
Yes,
right?
some do.
Some do. Some don't require it, but they actually give points for like certain tournament plays. They give you points if you have your miniatures painted, and like you have to have, I think, 3 colors.
The 3 that's the Warhammer tournaments. This is the 3 color minimum.
The 3 color minimum on each miniature. They have to, and you have to have similar colors. So you can't just go and paint them willy nilly whatever color. They have to have similar colors to be part of the army and things like that. But for me, like I said, I paint for fun, and that's like Grant. When I was painting these guys, I was like, I'm gonna paint this color, and he's like, Was the rest of your army that color? And I'm like, I don't care.
What's like the little because I painted the unfathomable
Yeah.
guys, and the little deep ones I did pretty just bare bones, a little bit of detail where I could stand it. And then the only mini I've ever actually poured some time into was that Mother Hydra.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with how it came out. And then I started on that Father Dagon, and there's no way that's coming out as good as the Mother Hydra. And I'm defeated. I'm like, I can't do it. This is awful. It's terrible.
If you just, like I said, you can strip it. You can easily. It's not.
I don't want to do that because I've spent 3 days doing it to the misery it was in.
But did you have fun?
No,
You didn't have fun hanging out with us.
I mean, yeah, you're all right.
Wow! Oh, ouch!
I mean, every model that's painted looks better than it did when it was gray.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true.
I do. I think it looks a lot better than it.
I can think of one, and it was left in a bowl and just squirted with spray paint.
So our old boss painted a miniature, and were you there when Pat was telling us about this? He said he's only painted one miniature he ever known in his life, and apparently they were painting miniatures, and what he did was put out a bowl, put the miniature in the bowl, and just took a can of spray paint. It was like vibrant pink spray paint, and just went just
Right
sprayed.
next to the microphone.
You're welcome. You're welcome, everybody's ears. Just sprayed straight into this bowl until it started pulling up into this bowl of this pool of paint, and the miniature was like halfway into the paint and like left, and he was like, "It's got to sit there for a while," and then put it outside and left. And come back, and he said he pulled it out, and it was like a mold. He had to break it out of this paint. And here was this miniature that was like half painted, and then half of it was still wet halfway through, like vibrant pink. And he was like, done.
You gotta give it to the man.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, so do you guys feel? So if you're gonna play, say we're gonna go with the miniature army.
Yes.
So we got our 3D printer, or we went and bought our starter set, or we did whatever. I know there's also a thing that people do, and that's basing, where they, they'll take, and if anybody listening to this has seen, the mini sitting somewhere and it looks like it's got like the faux grass, or it's painted a certain way, or it's got like dirt around where its feet are, and so that's a whole nother level to the preparation of it.
So you got a few options with your bases. You can do what most role player games do, and nothing. It's just black or clear.
That's probably what I would do.
And that's fine. That's a great approach. I mean, or you can get if you have a 3D printer, you can 3D print bases that just look great. Just paint it when you're painting the model, you're done. Nothing needed.
Yeah.
Like most 3D printing companies, part of their releases, they'll include like really awesome bases with them. And some people will just go get those just to get the cool bases to put with their normal Warhammer armies.
So what do you get to put on them? Like, is there just like special stuff you can get for that, or like, do you have any tips or tricks?
You've got two options
Okay.
when you want to go old school into quote unquote
Do you do
basing.
this too, Aaron? Do you do the
I have the
bases?
stuff, but I have never done a base.
Okay, so
You can get.
Aaron wants to do a base. Where's he got to go do?
So you got a couple of options here, Aaron.
Okay.
One option is you go down to your local game store and you go to the basing section. All game stores will have a little section where you get like your different grains of grass, or maybe you've got Geek Gaming Scenics, there's like pre-mixed basing mix that like it's all got like rocks and grass and weeds and all this stuff pre-made for you. And you put glue on the base and you dip it on in there and you shake it off, or maybe you want to do it yourself. And I'm going to put this dirt and that dirt, and I'm going to put these little green tufts. You can do all that, and it's awesome. You know what else you can do? You can go in your backyard. You can go up in the hills.
Yeah.
And get a shovel.
What? There's hills all around us.
Yeah. So you know what?
How fortuitous.
No, works great for fake dirt. Real dirt. But there is a trick to it. What you want to do is you want to spread that dirt onto a cookie sheet and bake it in the oven at 400 degrees for a few minutes. I think it's like 20 minutes, so that you kill anything that was in said dirt. And then you have this, let it cool down before you put it on your menu.
Worms and bugs, but
Preferably you've had done a little bit of sifting before. You
Borrowed
put that.
Cody's colander. He was getting the play out.
yeah.
And then you just do the same thing with the dirt, or you go to the dollar store and you buy a bag of the decorative sand and do it that way.
Like I
You
said,
don't have to go crazy with it.
I have some things, but all I've ever bought is like the little turfs of grass, things like that. Yeah, if I never understood. They have the little discs like shaped cups that they have of grass and stuff. They also have rocks. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have those in my backyard. Why would I buy this? Why would I pay $12 for this cup of
You
rocks?
buy a $3 thing of like fish gravel.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
like that. If
And
you
I've
really want to
used,
get into it.
and I've done all of the above. I've done the fake rocks. I've done the real dirt. I've bought the $5 bag of tiny pebbles from the game store. And they all have their pros and cons. Why you buy the rocks from the game store? Consistency. If you're just doing 1 or 2 models and it doesn't need to match, you can do whatever. But if you're doing 300 Stormcast Eternals and they all have to look like the same, buying the rocks ahead of time means that you're not sitting there picking through the grass yourself.
I want to say the turf. I think I paid it's like $5 for that little thing of turf that I have. The grass, or you can go to Hobby Lobby and pay $10 and you get a big bottle.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a lot, it's just cheaper and it's literally the same stuff. And I think it actually kind of looks better. That's what's on. Well, we can't see it here. I did a diorama for my amiibo. My Zelda amiibo's on top of there.
That's Woodland Scenics is what you're talking about. It's the same stuff that the train hobbyists use when they're making their fake towns.
Yeah, those were those.
But yeah, if you want to do the
That's
old,
right. Shots fired at the adult train hobbyist.
if you want to do it the old school style, it's also fun to just like get the dirt and the grass tufts and the pebbles and glue them onto the bases.
Cool.
It's just about creativity and like how far you want to go with it.
If you have somewhere that picture is posted, that I can link to it in our show notes. So I think that's a really cool
I'll send
image
it
of
to
all
you.
reasons. So yeah. So just real quick, just to close out on this, because again, I want to talk about one-page rules, and we're closing on it. We're just over an hour. We usually go about an hour and a half. So just to kind of close out. So Cody, you've been pretty quiet.
Yeah, I don't really minis a lot, really.
Yeah. So I mean, what do you
don't
think? Like,
minis.
what do you, like if you has a conversation made you more interested in it? Like, what are your thoughts on the mini hobby?
As far as the war games go, if somebody had one, I'd try to play it with them. But one of those to sit down and do the measuring out and everything, it's never been something that really interested me. But the minis themselves are really cool.
Right.
I just enjoy those.
Right.
And that was part of the reason that I even bought the Bloodborne game to start with, is because of the minis and stuff that was in it.
I mean, there is a humongous part of the hobby of people that do not play these games. They just paint the models.
Yeah.
How are you?
And
It's a bigger hobby of people who just buy the models.
Yeah, but
I don't have that much money.
but it's the Bloodborne board. I bought it because I really enjoy Bloodborne, and I wanted to get the models out of it because that Steinhardt's game was coming out, and it's the Steinhardt's game is based off of Bloodborne, just not the IP because they didn't have that. But I figured if we were going to play that, I could use the minis out of Bloodborne in that as well, and do a dual use of them.
Yeah, definitely.
And it also comes with character minis in that's supposed to match them. So, we could use those for player minis as well. And I think they come naturally a different color. I think they're like a goldish color as opposed to the gray of all the monsters that's in it. But, that's really where I am with minis.
So what would you guys, was that a lawnmower?
It was.
Going by?
It was. I told them we were recording today. I'm glad they decided to cut it out.
That's what I heard.
We needed the ambiance.
If it makes you feel any better, I spoke at a summit with 600 attendees from 8 different countries on COVID care and skilled nursing facilities.
Yeah.
And I'd speak. And my grandfather decided that would be a great time to drive the lawnmower by my house while I was on a Zoom call.
Nice.
At this summit.
I love this COVID economy.
Just drive by and he's like, you know what I haven't done? I ain't shot my shotgun in a while.
The speaker said, okay, we're going to head over to the group from the hospital I was working at. And I was there at about that time. And I'm just kind of like, I looked at my camera, probably, you got to talk.
Outside honking the horn on the lawnmower.
Josh, come get this stick out of the yard. So, just before we get into the one-page rule stuff, is there any kind of final thing, Aaron, Jay, you guys would like to say to somebody who is A, looking to get into the hobby, B, intimidated by the price points, or intimidated by the care or the meticulosity of some of these things. Because I know looking at what some people do with these things and how good some of these minis look and just how incredible of a job people do, like that's intimidating to me sometimes, because I think what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, Aaron showed me a mini not long ago. I can't remember who it was. I think it was a Warhammer one where a guy was holding a book out.
It's Nagash.
It was Nagash, okay. Yeah. And he was holding his book out, and they had painted it like the book was glowing, and you could see the reflection from the book on his actual body.
Yeah, they had painted the red glow from the book on the miniature. I was like, my God.
They had he had this mini had like a glowing sword, and they just had painted it in such a way it looked like that was actively glowing, and it was going through. And then I've seen some where they tried to do that, and it just looks like it's green all the way down. But that's intimidating, because I think, oh man, am I going to have to look like that? Do I got to do that? Like,
Lord, no.
What advice would you give somebody to not get discouraged if they want to get into this?
First rule that I always paint with: 1, never compare yourself to anybody else. 2, have fun and make it to where you like it. That's all that matters. Those are my 2 rules. That's how I paint. I don't worry about it. I slap paint on it. If it's good, I'm like, cool. If it's not, I'm like, all right, let's do it again. Paint some more.
I mean, you need to look at the same way. Like, do you enjoy playing video games even though you know that there's like the tournament level Twitch streamers that will own you every single day of the week? That they exist.
That's back to my 10-year-old Japanese children that beat the hell out of me and my beloved Pokemon on a nightly basis.
That or those off nights we have on Omega Strikers where our entire team died.
They killed us. They hurt us so bad.
They killed our entire team and then just stood there with the ball in front of our goal and waited for us to spawn.
Oh, they did.
Then they scored.
Oh, they did.
And I was like, that was rude.
That was emasculating.
That's called toxicity.
I had to go tell my wife about it in case she wanted to go be with whoever that was. That was rough, man.
Most people that are in the hobby are just painting for fun and painting a couple of hours a night after their jobs or whatever, and they're about the same level that you'll get in a month of painting. It's not the only time you need to worry about looking as good as a Crystal Brush or Golden Demon entry is if you are entering the Crystal Brush tournament or the Golden Demon tournament. That's it.
Painting tournaments.
Yeah, that's the only time you need to care about, can I punch with those weights?
Can I box with God? Shane, my arms are long enough. Thank you.
If I as a person who occasionally enjoys this stuff, what I would suggest to someone is buy like one thing. Get one thing. Get something from like a discount bin or something little. Start there. Get you a little starter. If you're looking to paint, get a little starter paint set. Or if you're just looking to put the models together, get a little, like a cheap kind of starter set thing. I wouldn't go in and buy a 3D printer off the bat. I wouldn't go in and buy a giant starter set of Warhammer off the bat. Wouldn't do any of that. Get a little thing, little goblin or something. Get me some starter paints and some brushes from the dollar store and try it out.
I'll do you one better on this one.
Okay.
And this is to sort of pay the GW bully debt we paid a little bit earlier. One of the things GW does fantastically is if you walk into any Warhammer store on the planet and say, hey, I want to try this. I want to try painting. They will give you a primed mini, a set of fresh paints, and a new brush and say, take your time. Well, I'll teach you how if you want me to.
Yeah, they did. I know the one in Lexington had a ton of like get together paint things, and that's friendly local game stores do that stuff.
I was told a great way to actually test painting, not necessarily see if you want to get into it, but if you want to get better at painting. I was told a great way to do it is to buy like one of those dollar boxes or buckets of army men and pretend just paint them.
Yeah.
To test what kind of paint you want, the kind of things like that. That's what I was told.
If you like dinosaurs,
get the dinosaurs. But you can get minis super. Like if you're not wanting a Warhammer, you can go to your game store and get really nice minis, 2 for $5.
Yeah.
Or any other, as long as it's not Warhammer itself. minis are actually affordable.
They are now. They're usually like $2 to $3 a piece.
I mean, there's a pallet bin close to us that you can go in, and they had minis there on it one
Oh,
time.
yeah.
If you go in $1 day,
Yeah,
they
there's a
usually
ton.
make it.
Those room order miniatures, I have a bunch in there that I haven't even opened, and I was like, that looks cool. And that's,
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, if you have a pallet bin or something nearby, you might be able to get like a bag of minis for like $12 or something.
I don't know how many times I've almost come out there with like a handful of those. And I just have to remind myself, I don't want to do this. I don't want to pack. They look cool. They look so cool. And that's where it gets me, is they look so awesome. And then I have to remind myself, that's not put together in that damn box. No, it's not put together. It's not painted. Yours isn't going to look like that on the box, Josh. It's not. It's not going to look like that. And then that's how I talk myself out of it.
Well, a secret is the box art minis are made to look good, but not unobtainably good. They have those like elite level painters working for the companies, but they usually have two teams. One that just is supposed to paint as good as like a hobbyist could get in like a year of trying, and the other one that's meant to be like these are Rembrandt
Michelangelo.
painting. Yeah. I got 37 layers of pink on his shoulder.
yeah.
All right. So you talked about one-page rules. So let's get into that. So I don't want to buy any stuff. So we got Jay here who said I don't want to buy anything. I don't want to buy anything. I'm frugal with my money, but I also want to have a good time. I like to party.
Right.
And my method of partying is wargaming with my buddies. So you said something about one-page rules having like paper printable.
Okay, so One Page Rules, we are an independent wargame miniature company. The game is we're not lying. It is 1 page of rules. In the back of it is 1 page of special rules. It's the front and back of one piece of paper.
For what it's worth, Warhammer and the like are not one page of rules.
Not the edition 40K.
Oh, honey.
You needed like 7 books and a librarian.
I looked up a 10-minute video, and that's how I learned to play Warhammer.
Yeah. So
I'm surprised it was only 10 minutes.
And it exists because existing wargamings are complicated and expensive to get into, and the founder wanted to make a game that was free and easy to play and was easy to learn, but was still tactfully interesting. It still had the fun parts of the game, the really interesting parts there, and a lot of the more chore-like elements just rubbed off and then gotten rid of.
You mean I don't have to bring 7,000 D6s for my...
Oh no, that's a fun part. You totally get to bring your 7,000 D6.
Yeah, that's what
So I have to bring a
that's what
tape
my
measure.
finger D6 is up there.
You should probably still bring a tape measure.
Okay.
Yeah. Though more and more people are playing with just measurement gauges, which is just like a stick.
Yeah, that's like most Warhammer stuff now comes with, like, if you get on the starter boxes, they come with a little paper stick, measuring stick, and it's like the max movement of most of the units. So it's just like I moved there.
So for what it's worth, just to touch on what we're talking about here, when you're wargaming, like say my unit is going up against Aaron's unit, my unit is going to have an attack, and I want to use that on my turn. It has a maximum or minimum range in some cases. And so you literally measure on the table how far these things can move or how long their range on their attack are. So you're literally taking out, rulers to measure shortest distance, maximum distance, stuff like that. So, I mean, you're genuinely kind of simulating a battle on there.
Yeah. Right.
So most time you use it to move for movement, and then sometimes you have an ability that usually has a radius around you at certain times. So,
and if you go to onepagerules.com, the rules for all of our games are free, and we also have free starter kits that are quick start kits that come with 2 armies each. We have a sci-fi one and a fantasy one, Grimdark Future and Age of Fantasy, the 2 games, and you have the option to 3D print those minis if you have a 3D printer, or if you just have a traditional printer, you can 2D print those minis and be playing no cost in starter army, ready to go, the full experience. And of course,
So just
all
like a
the
little
rules,
piece of paper, you just put on a piece of cardboard, put the thing, and you got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
just little cutouts.
Just go to your local office supply store and get the card stock to feed into your printer. You cut it out. They're designed to fold and then be done. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Little drop of Elmer's glue if you want to go that route. And then you're ready to go. The game is free. All the rules are free. Like, we do have paid offerings, like how the company funds itself.
Yeah, so that was my question.
Patreon.
That's what I was going to ask is, how the hell do you make money?
So our
How does
community is
one-page rules
awesome.
make money?
The one-page rules community is awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah. There's Patreon levels that you can pledge at, and that's at first it's just donation funded company. We have some like rewards, like to get access to the cool faction creator app. You have to be one of the patrons. I think $5 is the lowest tier to get in on that, and get you full access to like all the optional rules and advanced access to the stuff we're working on. And at $10 a month, you get access to all the 3D printed models we make each month, which is this month we put 136 out. So pretty good value for $10, I think.
Yeah, because most of those, which granted, this again, despite like a game workshop where you paid $30 for your 3 miniatures, they have like $50, $70 for an entire army, for all the models for an entire army.
Yeah. Now these aren't physical models, right?
No,
like you're not getting the physical one. You're getting the 3D printable file.
Yeah, these are the files.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that
if you do want the physical models, we can't give those for free or stupid cheap. But we have partnered with a company called Only Games, where you can go there and they will sell you physical copies of our models.
Okay,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you don't have a printer,
so comparably, if I wanted to get, like, say, I wanted to get my 3 Stormcast Eternals, I wanted to get something that was analogous to that, just price point. Right. So I'm getting 3 upper commanders for an army. From you guys, what's the price point similarity there?
Like, it's ultimately like the Only Games price is based on the amount of material used to make the model. So like it doesn't matter what rank they are. So your average hero model is like $7 to $10 each. That's it.
Okay.
If you're buying the physicals. Again, I would highly recommend if you're interested in.
And these are 3D printed ones, so I do want to emphasize, if it's 3D printed, it's going to be fairly solid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like when I'm talking about my Stormcast Eternals, this is like in a lot of cases for some of these. I mean, you're paying hundreds of dollars for something that once you put together is pretty freaking flimsy plastic.
And the cool thing about the 3D printed ones is they're already put together.
Yeah, and the 3D that's what I wanted to get at, like, because it sounded, because when Jay was talking, it was like, oh, you get 10 for 3, and that's a similar price point, but what you're getting for that, to me, now this is to me, because somebody else may value this differently, but to me, who wants something that's going to hold up or that at least perceptually is sturdier, that's a better value to someone coming into it from my perspective.
Right.
But now Games Workshop purists may go, well, shit on those one-page rules, guys.
Well, I mean, like when you're buying heroes, they're like $7 a piece. But if you're buying like a group of 10 dudes, it's like $20. So the price goes down when the models go up.
Okay.
Quantity, you get better price.
Yeah.
But like I said, their main market is the 3D printed stuff for sure. So that's kind of if you're really interested in getting head deep into the wargaming hobby, I kind of do recommend just get a 3D printer, because it's a shortcut to having infinite models and more than you'll ever be able to paint.
I have bought models from them, so they had a big sale one time, and I think I bought 2 groups of models one time.
Yeah, but that's how the company's funded. And again, like, we also sell t-shirts and stuff like that. But honestly, just enough people that just like what we do that are joining the Patreon just to make sure we keep doing what we do is enough to keep the company going.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's like you were talking about earlier. Just throw money at, even if you didn't buy the game, throw money at something that you like to do, enjoy, show them that you like it, and let them be able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I give Iron Mouse $5 a month just because I like watching her play video games. She doesn't give me minis.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
VTuber.
Cool, is that like so VTubers? We can do a whole episode.
That's a whole nother episode. We'll get into that later.
Those are the ones with little anime icons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I got her Nendoroid. Came in yesterday.
Oh, nice. I like
it. What?
An extreme. We thought if you think Warhammer's expensive.
Okay.
Let me tell you about Good Smile, the company that makes Japanese action figures.
I have one Good Smile figure, and it's for Zelda.
Yeah,
and I think it was $75 or $80.
$75 for a 4-inch tall action figure.
Zelda wasn't for it. 5 or 6 inches, maybe.
Well, all Nendoroids are the same size.
Well, this wasn't a Nendoroid.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to open up Good Smile here, and I'm going to go to
But it was a Good Smile figure.
All right, so shop all available items. Here we go.
He just give a big gulp. And
Oh my God! This is the Waddle Dee from Kirby, the little
Yeah. What's that? $50?
$40.
Yeah, I was like, that's a steal.
Yeah.
Like the main character from Genshin Impact, 65.
And they're like little chibi heads.
yeah. Yeah, welcome to more targeted ads.
That's insane.
Some weird
So this is what I will
That's
say. You talked about earlier about like worrying about supporting your local game store if you get a 3D printer.
Mm-hmm.
I got a 3D printer ages ago, and yes, I do 3D print almost all of my models, but I still make it rain at Nathan's every time I walk through the door.
Yeah, I have a 3D printer, and I still paints.
Yeah,
I buy paints there. I buy brushes.
That's the one I got. It's still
the Figma.
It's a Figma.
Oh my gosh.
It's still from Good Smile, but it's Figma. I couldn't remember that part.
So Figma's are action figures with like every possible version of the accessory you can think of, and they're pinky toe bends, and they're insane.
I had a few of them.
There's a lawnmower kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like all that money I'm saving by 3D printing, I'm not investing it responsibly like an adult should. No, I'm spending it on more nerd crap at my game store.
Exactly. Well, like a happy person does.
So kind of in summation, it's from the outside looking in, the hobby can be intimidating.
Right.
I know it was for me when I thought about getting into it, and then the more I met people who do it and who play it, it's really like the barrier for entry is next to none. It's just, hey, do I want to go print something off, or give a buddy some money who's got a 3D printer, or go buy something cheap, or just dive into the really the name brand stuff, the big household names, which One Page Rules is going to be a household name, right?
I think we are currently the number 2 or 3 wargame in the world at the moment. So
Really?
Maybe we're growing a little
That's
fast.
awesome.
That's awesome.
That's because I think it turns out it depends on who you're with.
Yeah.
It's how intimidating it can look intimidating, but when like me, I don't care about it.
Yeah.
We're pretty cool about it. Like we've played the best way to get if you want to get into it, and if you're dedicated, you want to get into Warhammer.
Lawnmowers kill.
I know, sorry.
That's fantastic.
If you want to get into Warhammer, and you're dedicated, you want to get Warhammer miniatures. Start with the 1,000-point army. It's usually a half point. That's usually a small army to start with.
Well, I'll even stop you there on that one. And like, if you want to get into Warhammer and you really want to do that, Warhammer makes 2 games that are skirmish scale. And skirmish is instead of giant armies of hundreds of people, it's small parties of 10 people, 10 models that you play with on the side.
Kill Team and Warcry.
Kill Team and Warcry, or if you want to get extra nerdy, you play Necromunda.
I'm not familiar with Necromunda.
It's like Kill Team if all your dudes suck.
It's the popper. It's Warhammer's popper. They don't like Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
They're like street gangs in a city instead of space marines. It's a different scale of combat.
So we're gonna have. I'm gonna put links to at least Games Workshop, and definitely to One Page Rules and their Patreon and stuff in the show notes here for this show.
And all of Jay's.
Yeah, and then Jay's going to send me some pictures of miniatures he's painted and he's done, and so I'm going to try to link those in. We'll see if I'm technologically advanced enough to put decent links there.
If we're linking everything Jay has, it may be a real long page.
But we we have just posted our first episode on Spotify. So episode 1, which we recorded 4 months ago, went up about a month ago, and that's been on, and we've been doing pretty well. We've got some listeners. We've got a lot more than we thought we were going to get. So thank you to everybody who's listening to us. We really appreciate that.
And that's another one of those. I know everybody throws it out, but that whole rating and everything actually does help.
It does.
Oh yeah, yeah. Please go in. Give us a rate and review on wherever you get your podcast. I throw up at the end of these episodes.
You throw up?
I shouldn't have paused there. At the end of on the episode, so when we pause, I get nervous. I throw up. No, when I post these, Spotify's our main platform, and it apparently radiates out to like 4 or 5 other platforms. So we're available on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast fix. You can come hang out with the nerds in the hills. But on Spotify, at least, I throw up a little Q&A on there for each episode. And so we'd love it. We want feedback from you guys. So, go in there, interact with us, answer the Q&A, tell us what you think, because it's usually just interacting about the topic of the day. So we want to hear from people. We want to include you in the discussion. Right? That's what this podcast is for, is just for people who love this nerdy crap to sit around and talk about how much we love this nerdy stuff. That's why we do it. That's why we enjoy doing it. And Jay, I really appreciate you coming in.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So just in closing, Jay, is there anywhere that people can find you online?
The best place to find me is over at my podcast, which is my own podcast, which is printyourgames.com, a podcast all about 3D printing for the various types of traditional gaming.
And there'll be a link to that in the show notes as well. What about you, Cody?
Nowhere currently.
What about you, Aaron?
Well, no, I got nothing here. This is it. This is what I do.
Well,
Deep in a volcano somewhere.
Yeah.
We're going to try to struggle our way out from under this pile of unpainted minis and crusty old brushes. But if you want to reach out to us, you can get a hold of us at hillshavenerds@gmail.com. Send in any kind of comments, questions. If you got suggestions on what you'd like to hear us talk about for future episodes, we'd love to hear that. Or just, your interests, your hobbies, what you get excited about in nerd culture. Don't be fucking weird about it. Okay? Don't send me weird stuff.
Send me weird stuff.
Don't get weird about it, but what you like.
Do it.
And with that, I think we're done.
All right.